And welcome to Meet the Writers. I'm Georgina Godwin. Now, one of the reasons I am able to meet so many writers is that I travel to literature festivals all over the world. Key to the success of these festivals is the curation process, the talented artistic directors who can interpret the zeitgeist, who across everything that's been published that year, and who can craft an event that will bring in readers to listen to authors, to buy books, and to celebrate literature in all its forms. In this episode, I want to introduce you to some of the people from New Zealand, Australia, the UAE and Scotland who make this happen. Let's begin with the Edinburgh International Book Festival, which kicked off on August the 9th and will run until the 24th. I spoke to the CEO and director, Jenny Niven.
I think for me, the idea of being able to have long-form, nuanced, interesting conversation should be a bit of an act of hope, an act of resilience, something that propels the conversation forward. And while we could diagnose everything that is wrong and everything that is broken right now, I would also like the work that we are doing to perhaps suggest some ways that might be hopeful and how we can repair things. So we're using the idea of repair just really as a framing to look at all sorts of different issues across the political sphere, mental health and well-being, the environment and sustainability is a huge part of that and our relationship to the natural world and social cohesion. So it's a useful kind of baggy, expansive sort of idea that allows us to do a lot of interesting, thought-provoking discussion under that.
For listeners who haven't been to Edinburgh, can you just position it in the kind of global landscape of literary events?
Sure. It's 43 years old, I think, this year. So it's one of the older ones. It ran every second year for its first 10 years or so of existence and now runs annually. Crucially, it runs right in the middle of all of the Edinburgh festivals, of which there are 9 concurrently in August. So the International Festival, Jazz and Blues, Comedy, TV, Film. So it's really very much of its context. And I think that's really important. It's quite different from if there's so many beautiful destination festivals, but we're a little bit different because of everything else that's happening. But we are, at one time we were the biggest. I don't know what metrics are important to people. I don't think that's necessarily specifically the most interesting thing about Edinburgh, but we do still have, as you say, 700 writers that are coming to us. 35 countries, I think, writers are coming from. And last year, in our streaming and the amount of work that we put online that then goes out around the world, I think we reached 65 countries through that work as well. So the reach is pretty extensive.
That's extraordinary. I was listening to the local MP for the area in which the festival is held, and he was talking about numbers and comparing it to the Paris Olympics. I thought it was fascinating.
That's right. And myself and a few of the other directors of Edinburgh festivals, we're part of something called Festivals Edinburgh, and we are continually making the case that our festivals should have mega event status and be treated in that way, because it's true, more people come to the Edinburgh Festival, plural, every year than go to an Olympics. And yet those events, which are not cultural specifically, primarily, are supported with lots of different sort of infrastructural help and background that our events are not.
So and they only happen every 4 years.
Exactly. And we're doing it every single year. But of course that has an impact on the city and on the local economy, both positive and negative in terms of, pressure on services. So we need that support and that infrastructure to really be able to make the most of what should be and is one of the world's leading festival cities.
So, of course, if people go to the book festival, they can then be dipping in and out of the film festival, the comedy festival, the fringe festival. I mean, it's just such a packed cultural time. But your programme itself is incredibly rich. Brilliant fiction, new world orders, lots of information, how to live a meaningful life. I love the idea of that. Tell us about the front list.
Sure. So the other thing that I think is distinctive about us too is that we actually have one physical location where everything happens, which allows us to create that real kind of traditional festival feeling of having tents and having a Spiegel tent and being kind of a captive audience in a way, even in amongst all that hustle and bustle. So most of the events that we run take place at the Edinburgh Futures Institute, which has really great very accessible, kind of well-teched interior spaces, but also courtyard space that allows us to have tents and things. And right next to our venue is the beautiful McEwan Hall, which is part of the Edinburgh University real estate. And it's beautiful. It's where they have all the graduations at the end of the university year, seats 1,000 people. And we're partnering with Underbelly because typically they use that as a fringe venue and they run that venue. But we're working in partnership with them to run 15 really large-scale events every day during our festival, one every day for the 15 days. And so far, so that our writers in that list are amazing. We have Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, we have Ta-Nehisi Coates, we have Anne Applebaum and Edward Wong, who are reporting from the front lines of the American Trump administration, which is a fascinating topic right now. Nicola Sturgeon will be launching her political memoir that day in the middle of the festival. Ian McEwan, it's one of those programmes that you're like, oh, Ian McEwan is one of the leading lights of UK fiction. So it's really terrific. But critically, it's also bringing in really a new audience for the book festival. So superstar footballer Ali McCoist is in there as well. His book is about being on the road with a tartan army. And everybody in Scotland knows who Super Ali is. And also Ruth Jones, who wrote the Gavin and Stacey series as well. So, and we can see from our ticket buying patterns already, because that programme's been out for a couple of months already, that it's bringing new audiences who read all the time but don't necessarily come to book events, and that's a really vital part of what we're trying to do.
Now, the festival was run for many years by Nick Biley, who's now moved on, so you're relatively new to this job. How are you finding it?
Well, I mean, I've met you at festivals around the globe, Georgina. I've been in festival land for a while. I directed a book festival in Beijing for many years, for 6 years, and then I was at the Melbourne Writers' Festival and the Wheeler Centre for Books, Writing and Ideas in Melbourne. I was head of literature at Creative Scotland at the Scottish Arts Council for a period of time. So I've been in this space a long time, but the privilege of working in Edinburgh, and I'm from Scotland, I'm from the West Coast though, controversial to hire somebody in the East Coast of Scotland. But the privilege and the beauty of it, I think, is the scale. You can do really interesting things when you've got that huge canvas to work on. And I'm really interested in cross art form stuff and how the written word then gives space and grows into so many other things. So being able to work in collaboration with those other projects and art forms is really terrific. But it's no small challenge. It's a big festival. We're working in quite a difficult cultural context on lots of different fronts. Funding is really challenging. So, yeah, so it's been, I wouldn't say a baptism of fire, but it's been a lively first couple of years.
Jenny Nevin, CEO and Director of the Edinburgh International Book Festival, which is on right now. I'll be doing live events with Ewan Morrison, Tessa Hadley and Alexander McCall-Smith. Now let's whisk you to New Zealand, where I had the great pleasure of moderating a number of sessions at Auckland Writers' Festival, where I also caught up with the artistic director, Lindsay Finneran.
So I was with the Cheltenham Festival for almost 10 years before coming over to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and I arrived into New Zealand in July 23. So Auckland Writers' Festival 24 was my first, and this is my second.
By all accounts, last year was an absolute storming success, and certainly this year has been. Tell us about walking into a brand new country, a brand new job, the whole huge change for you.
Yes, it's been quite the last couple of years, I have to say. But it's always been a great challenge and a great privilege. I had lots of conversations when I was offered the role here about whether it felt right as an international director to come in as well. That was an important conversation to have. But I think this festival is quite unique, and it's so much bigger than the other New Zealand literature festivals. It's rooted here in Auckland, it's rooted here in Aotearoa, New Zealand, but it's got a huge global remit and outlook. So I think that's why having an international director at this point in the festival's history makes sense. But it's really important to me to make sure that it's first and foremost a New Zealand Literature Festival, but also trying to use my sort of past experience and connections to bring those really great international guests in and really weave people together to make really interesting discussions. You know, I wouldn't want this festival to feel you could pick it up and move it to Toronto or to London or New York. It has to feel really unique to the place, and creating those conversations that literally couldn't happen anywhere but this country is a beautiful thing.
I mean, it seems to me the festival, and actually Auckland as a whole, feels very integrated. There's so much of the local language and culture in everything.
Yeah, that's right. So there's been a huge resurgence of of Te Reo, that's the Māori language, throughout New Zealand over the last period. So it's very important that that's represented at the festival. So you'll hear a lot of Te Reo spoken on the stages. Most of our sessions will open with a Māori greeting and close. We make sure our guests are welcomed with a pōwhiri, which is a Māori welcoming ceremony, because Auckland is on the land of Ngāti Whātua, that's the local Māori iwi. So it's really crucial that we're very respectful to them. We're in their space, they're very generously hosting us, and I think it's fascinating for writers to understand the context. They get a lot out of understanding the history and the culture of the place, and again helps with that feeling if you're not just whizzing in and whizzing out, and this festival could be a blur and could be anywhere. I want people to go away with a really rich understanding of New Zealand.
I certainly have done. Tell us about some of the strands that come together to make the festival as a whole.
So to give a sense of the festival, it's about 6 days long, but a really big weekend of 3 to 4 days, around 240 writers and upwards of 180 events over those days. So it all takes place in one big convention centre. For British listeners, it feels like sort of a more modern South Bank centre. So everything takes place there. The Central Theatre is 2,200. That's a big centrepiece. And then we've got lots of rooms that run concurrently from sort of 400 downwards. But lots of different strands. So, literary fiction is obviously there as a writers' festival. But I like to think that every category of the bookshop is represented. So history, politics, art, music, it's all there. We have guest curators. We have the beautiful father-daughter duo who are Māori, who bring their beautiful curation to strands of the festival. A beautiful Pacifica curator who was ex-Sokai this year, brought some wonderful things. And I see my role as basically weaving it all together and getting out the way in the bits that I should get out the way in,
There were some beautiful pairings. I mean, it was really nicely curated, I thought, very thoughtfully done, and some really big names too.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that 2,200 seat theatre, it takes some filling. So it's great to have people like David Nichols and Colin Toybin, the Booker winner Samantha Harvey, Philippe Sands. Many great writers coming through to fill that space, but also great New Zealand writers. Catherine Chidgey is a huge name here, and she's had some international recognition, a fair bit, but I think this book, The Book of Guilt, is going to really break her through to a much bigger audience. And this sort of central theatre is huge, but what I was really heartened by both last year and this year is that the breadth and the depth of the programme sold really well. So those pairings, those panels, those more nuanced conversations that you wouldn't probably pick up on a first leaf through the programme, but when you sit and you read it. And because this is granular festival stuff, but we have a lanyard system that people can or buy a bundle or buy a lanyard and hop between things, I think it helps with that sense of discovery. They might have booked to see David Nichols and they might have booked to see Samantha Harvey or Harriet Walter, but inevitably the thing that becomes their highlight is that thing they took a chance on, they stumbled into, and it becomes the highlight of the festival, and we hear that time and time again. So I love being able to deliver the big names that this festival needs and expects and the audiences are looking for from me, but also to create those conversations that might surprise and intrigue people.
And in terms of tourism, if people were perhaps planning for next year, it's a great sort of centrepiece of a holiday, isn't it?
It is, and I'd love to encourage that actually, because I think it helps. I mean, it's a huge event, but it helps just give you the context of New Zealand. I think people learn a lot in quite a friendly, fun way. I mean, you were saying yourself you've learned a huge amount about New Zealand history and culture and the way of life here, all in this sort of very intense and buzzy few days. And, we're in Auckland. Some of our authors have been heading over to Waiheke Island, which is this gorgeous island full of wine and beaches. That's, 40 minutes on a ferry from here. You can jump on a flight down to the South Island. It's a long journey to get to New Zealand, so we hope that you might come to the festival but add on some holiday in and around it and really go away with some really special memories.
Lindsay Finneran of the Auckland Writers' Festival there. Now I'd like to take you to Australia to meet Anne Mossop, Artistic Director of the Sydney Writers' Festival.
This is my third festival, so I've been here for just over sort of 2.5 years. And it's been really interesting to see how you're able to develop something over that time.
Where does this festival sit within the sort of global landscape of literary events?
Well, it's really interesting because in Australia we have a number of absolutely, fantastic festivals, but we have a huge audience, and so we have about 100,000 attendances at our festival. So if you think about what that means, we have hundreds of authors, a big contingent from all around the world, but also many, many Australian guests. There have been, various conversations that say, we're in the top 5 writers' festival in the world. What does that even mean? I think, what you're trying to think about with a festival, is it serious about writers and writing? Does it have a big community of support behind it? And in those cases, we absolutely do. And what the characteristic of this festival is, because we're a festival that has a lot of free sessions, but we also have a huge component of ticketed events, and so we rely on the support of our audiences, and they're turning out in droves, which tells us that something is really working.
Why are people so invested in seeing authors in person?
Well, what we have, which is interesting, is this is a festival that in its current form has been going for more than 20 years. And so we have a really, really strong community, which is a community of people who want to attend. We have a 100-strong community of volunteers who help us put on the festival. We have an interesting problem, which is it's very hard for us to find room for new people to join our volunteering program because they stay with us. We have a big community of supporters, of people who support us financially. So, what you have is not just something where you've said to people, hey, so-and-so's coming. It's something that people look forward to around the year. It's in their calendar. They know it's happening, and they are connected to it in so many ways. Great independent bookshops support us, put our programs in their window, have tables with the books. All of these things mean that we are vibrant and strong. And so I think that's one part of it. The other part of it is that there've never been more book clubs. There've never been more people thinking about how do I connect with people whose work I love. And people are looking for things, of course, taking advantage of the fact that, you can listen to so-and-so on podcasts, you can see things in different ways, but really also wanting to get together in person. So that's something that a festival like this offers to a whole range of different people. The other thing about our festival in terms of audiences is that we are very broad. Of course, we want to have amazing literary fiction, non-fiction, poetry, all kinds of things. But we also have a session, we have sessions on the Saturday when the farmers market's there. We've got a session with 3 of Australia's most amazing bakers who have produced beautiful books about baking. So we are quite broad and eclectic in what we put on our stages.
How do the finances work? Because in most places in the world there's a huge economic squeeze, and of course the arts and literature are almost the first to go.
We're very much a mixed model. We're lucky enough to have support from the Government of New South Wales, the state where Sydney is, and from the City of Sydney. But that is less than, around 20% of our budget. And those other 2 most important things is we have a group of donors and sponsors who support us, which is another 40% of our budget, and the rest is from people who buy tickets. So if you think about us as an arts company, in Australia, arts companies are forced to be quite entrepreneurial and self-sufficient, but still benefit from government support. Our proportion of government support is quite low, but, compared to audiences in Germany, where your local symphony orchestra will have 95% of its budget provided by your local government, this is a very, very different thing. And what that means is that fundamental support from our state and city governments gives everybody confidence that we will be here, for years to come. And that enables us to bring donors, individuals who support us financially, but also some key, we have a wonderful university partner, UNSW Sydney. We have a wonderful company, ARA, which supports us. And so that mixture is what we rely on.
And this year, 2025, is there a theme?
The theme of the festival is In This Together. And that came from a sense that I was seeing lots of wonderful and interesting books about families, about relationships, about, people like Jeanette Winterson, for whom a key part of her work is this question about what happens when your birth family is broken. But when you think about that, of course, writers always write about relationships, friendship, connection. There's something for a festival like ours where you want to also talk about politics and what's happening in the world, where you have to think about what is the broader framing of that. And that is about the sense that not only are we connected to each other as humans, but as humans we rely on the planet that supports us. We are in this together with the earth and its systems. We need to think about that if we're thinking about climate change. Also at a time, I think, when people, there's a sense that there's conflict and difficult things happening in the world. These are not problems that any group of people or any individuals can solve alone. And so, in a way, a theme like In This Together responds to that sense of global issues, but also to these beautiful, more personal books that we see.
Anne Mossop of Sydney Writers' Festival. Staying in Australia, here's Jessica Ellis, the artistic director of Byron Writers' Festival in Byron Bay.
Well, beautiful Byron Bay on Bundjalung country is Australia's largest regional writers' festival. So it takes place in the hinterland of Byron Bay, which is obviously known as a world-famous surfing location. And it's also the birthplace of the environmental movement in Australia. And we put on this beautiful 3-day outdoor writers' festival that's set up a little bit like a music festival. So we have outdoor tents and markets and music and performance. And it's a place where the writers come and they're really immersed in the place and on the country. And we just put on a really fun show that is so connected to the place that we are, which is a really special part of the country.
Just describe that location for me a little.
So it's a subtropical coastal environment. So you're right on the beach, and then inland is beautiful, striking mountain ranges, and it's in the northern rivers. So it's a lush, verdant place, very green and leafy, and it's a place known for the hippie movement. It's counterculture. It's a artistic hub for creatives from all over the world, and it's an international town where people are drawn to this place, and it's a place where creativity is nurtured, and the readers of the place, our audience is about half locals, and the other half travel from all over the country and all over the world to be a part of it.
Because I guess Byron Bay is a tourism destination in itself.
That's right, it is. So it's one of the most heavily visited parts of regional Australia, and draws people from all over the world to nurture their artistic practice, as well as connecting with nature, with taking time out, and to have that the relaxed vibe is probably the thing that people come for. So we put on a festival that connects with all of the things that people love about the region, while also doing something that is world class, that is really challenging in terms of the, like the rigorous ideas and the creative curatorial approach that we put on, but is above all just a really fun time.
And as the artistic director, is there a specific vision that you're bringing to each festival? What kind of writers are you trying to get?
I'm interested in people who are really deeply centred in their artistic practice, that are doing things that are pertinent to the time that we live in now and are strongly led by their values. We have a heavy emphasis on the environment, of course, because of where we are and the nature of the place. And I'm particularly interested in culture as something that is fundamental to public life, as a civic right, a public right, that's something that all people have the right to enjoy, that all people should be able to have their lives enriched by art making and literature and living in a world of ideas. So people whose strong belief in artistic practice and the right of everyone to that is something that I'm always stirred by. I love writers who have a strong social justice interest, people who are really deeply interested in justice and equality, and people who are just wonderful, wonderful storytellers above all.
How much do you cooperate with other festivals in the region?
Well, as a regional writers' festival, we are so collaborative in many ways because we really need to be. There's so many more logistics that go on to being in a small town, in a coastal community, just to bring people out. They've got to travel quite a long way. So out of logistics reasons, we love to collaborate with partners and work with people on tours. But I also just love collaborating with our colleagues in the literary and festival sector, just to make all of our work better and stronger and more connected, because it really is a community. And when you travel between all of these beautiful festivals, it is such a joy to get to know them all and their idiosyncrasies and the things that make each of them really, really wonderful. So we love working together, coming up with collaborations, partnerships. All of those things make the experience so rich.
That was Jessica Ellis of Byron Writers Festival. Well, let's now bring in Sian Baker, Artistic and Festival Director at the Margaret River Readers and Writers Festival.
Yeah, secretly I absolutely love tour planning, and I want to be a travel agent when I grow up. So any opportunity to flex my travel planning, tour management skills, I take it. And it's so great to be able to join all the other festivals up, make the connections, make it easy for authors, and just really maximise the time they spend with us over here.
And I guess it means that you get a lot more writers coming to you because you can share costs and so on.
Yeah, it's really helped us to bring more of the internationals in, particularly because we're on the western side. It's really great for all the authors who are Europe and UK, and then we find that authors who are coming from the States, it's easier for them to come the other way, so we can kind of mix up tours and start and finish in different locations.
So tell me about Margaret River. Where is it and what's it like?
Okay, so it is probably one of the remotest places on the planet. So Western Australia, the other side from Sydney, you fly into Perth, and then it's a 3-hour drive south to glorious Margaret River, which is really well known for, obviously, the wine. Very, very good wine, but it also has incredible coastline, amazing surfing, really highly passionate and engaged artistic and literary community.
So being so far away from the rest of civilization, if you like, why does a Writers' Festival there work?
I think because we're a bit of a boutique thing. We're a little bit special. We're kind of like Auckland. We're quite a long way away. So when people come, I always say, don't just come for a couple of days. Come for 3 or 4 or even 5 days. Make it a bit of a holiday because there's so much to see. So it's a lovely opportunity for authors just to come and unwind a bit as well and enjoy some wine.
And who is your audience?
Well, locals primarily. So in WA, we are very used to driving long distances. So when I say local, I mean anything up to 3 or 4 hours drive away. So people who live down in Margaret River, there's a massive expat community over in WA as well. So we have the wider metropolitan Perth area. We also have northern WA. And now, probably the most exciting thing that's happened in the 5 years I've been down in Margaret River is we have an airport in Busselton, so we can fly people in from Sydney and from Melbourne, which has been an absolute game changer. So getting lots more audience coming over from the East Coast. So it just means that they can come to us, then they can go to Melbourne, then if they want to go to Auckland, they can go to Auckland, and then they can head to Sydney.
And it seems to me too that it's a perfect place for a tourist who wants to go on holiday but doesn't just want to sit there on a beach or drinking wine, wants some kind of intellectual stimulation along with their holiday.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the great thing about the Margaret River region. There's so much happening there. As I say, there's an incredible artistic community. So if you're into art, we have art. If you're into opera, we have opera. If you're into theatre, we have theatre. So there really is, alongside the wine, which is obviously very, very important, something for everyone.
Sian Baker, Margaret River Readers and Writers Festival. Now, to Adelaide and Louise Adler, who's the director there of Adelaide Writers' Week.
I had been in the academic world in tutoring and teaching assistant at Columbia University to Edward Said. It had been an academic career up to that point, and the beginning of an academic career. And I came back to Australia and I was invited to take on the editorship of Australian Book Review, which is a review magazine, and I'd done 9 issues. I really loved the business of commissioning people, matching ideas and people. And after about 9 months, Sandy Grant, who was the managing director of Reed Consumer Books in Australia, a division of Reed Consumer Books, and Elsevier had bought Reed in the UK and internationally. He was the managing director of the Australian division, and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I think you'll make a good publisher." Well, I didn't know what a publisher was. I really hadn't known what a magazine editor was and had none of those skills that are required. Apart from, well, my husband always points out, apart from seemingly the capacity to call anybody. You have no fear of ringing people. In those days, you called people on the telephone, as opposed to now where you don't speak to anyone, it's just all texting. I was brought into the industry, the book business, at a high level, and I didn't get the grounding that I think means that you understand the processes completely. And I think the best publishers I know they're the complete package that understand the craft of publishing. Not just the production business of it, but even learning how to copy edit a manuscript. So I knew how to I instinctively knew because of a lifetime of reading and writing for, at university, my undergraduate and postgraduate degrees. I knew about reading critically, if you like, but I never got that grounding. And I always think in retrospect, I've lacked that deep grounding in the basics, publishing 101. But that wasn't how I entered the industry, and we did some good work. And then I got an opportunity. I was asked if I would like to do a radio program. Radio National, which is the ideas bank of the ABC in Australia. It's rich in content, serious, if you like, speaks to, the cognoscenti, if you like, as a network. I don't know whether they would share that view, but I think it does. So they asked me if I would like to do a daily live arts program which covered all the art forms. And I thought that'd be wonderful. I thought, again, a bit like not learning the craft of publishing the book business. It would have been nice if I'd had a bit of training, but at the, public broadcasting of inevitably under-resourced. Get into the studio, turn the mic off you go. Yeah. Off you go. Pretty scary, but I had a brilliant executive producer, and there was a group of people there. There was a film someone who knew their film, knew their visual arts, so it was very interesting. And you would know from radio and audio, you can talk to the world. For someone like me, what a buzz. I could be in my, what we now call athleisure wear, and talking to Salman Rushdie at 10 o'clock at night in Australian time. He didn't know I was in my ghastly tracksuit, if you like. He wouldn't have cared. And I'm having this conversation with Salman Rushdie. What a buzz. Then I went to the Victorian College of the Arts, which is a multidisciplinary college, a tertiary education, part of Melbourne University. And I was deputy director there for 3 years in academic and research. And because I had that I had that education in culture across the world, really, if you like. And so I could sort of add value. I wanted to add value to the enterprise of young students who were coming out of school or had done a first degree and wanted to hone their skills as a violinist or as an actor or as a filmmaker or as a painter. So it was a wonderful opportunity. Complex because you're dealing with, it's a practice-based education, but you know that the practice will be all the richer for broad reading, deep understanding of your art form. So it's a very interesting debate that lots of art schools are engaged in and have been for a long time. After, I think, 3 years there, the job at Melbourne University Publishing came up, and I had yearned to go back into publishing. I felt that was my home, and that was a very interesting opportunity. And I spent 17 years there. We did put a lot of energy into commissioning books about the political culture. Some of the most significant political biographies of the nearly 2 decades I spent at MUP were published by MUP, and they would get us on the front pages of the newspaper, and people would say, oh, that was very strategic of you to decide to concentrate on politics. It wasn't a sense of, it wasn't strategic. It was part of the interests I have. And I think all publishers, you bring your interests to the work you commission, So I did that for 17 years. That came to an end. I went to work for Hachette for a couple of years as a publisher at large. And brilliant, very commercial, quite different to MUP, very commercial, very clever and astute about how they do publishing, a totally different methodology, processes, very efficient, very professionalised compared to the work we did, which was more intimate, if you like, more close in with the authors and with the machinery of it. We were a small team, so we did everything. So that was a couple of years. And then this Adelaide Writers' Week job came up.
Tell me then about this job.
So this job is like the culmination of like the best job in the world. And I say, don't have to worry about sales, don't have to worry about returns, don't have to worry about advances to authors, who want more money and you haven't got any more money to give them. You don't have to worry about all of that. You can just say, who in the world would I like to have interviewed or to hear talk about their writing? And you sit at your desk. Work from home has become, part of the way we all work. I live in Melbourne. The festival is in Adelaide. I come here regularly, of course. It's a small office during the year between festivals. Very small office, very tight, very frugal. Resource low, as is all arts organisations. But I sit I read the reviews, I read the books, I talk to the publishers, and I write emails and persist until some authors never yield. I've got some that I'm still waiting and hoping to persuade to come to Australia, but some do. It's interesting in terms of commercial sort of methodology, if you like. What I understand from my UK colleagues is the publishers support writers of frontlist titles to go to festivals. Here, publishers don't contribute anything, so it's all we wear the cost of bringing authors here. They sell, the Adelaide Writers' Week sells more books than any other festival in the country, probably because we're free. We have 6 days, probably 8 sessions a day, over 200 writers, it's 135 sessions, but they're all free apart from 2 events in the town hall. So I think people come and feel, because they've not had to pay a ticket to go to hear someone, that they then go to our bookshop and buy books, which is the benefit for writers and their publishers, of course.
How do you fund it then?
It's a state funded. It couldn't be free without that.
And when you're choosing writers, are you looking for themes every year, or what is the sort of guiding principle?
It's so hard. The theme this year is "The Past is Not Another Country." It's so everybody, all the publicists who call to sort of pitch their titles, their list for the year ahead, and they say, "What's your theme?" And you think it's sort of one ends up with a theme that's so general and capacious that it allows for anything. So, but I did think that it was reasonable in this moment to really twist the LP Hartley, the go-between, the writer, and he writes in the go-between, and "The Past is Another Country," and I think the past is not another country. So I've sort of twisted that. Forgive me, LP Hartley, wherever you are in the heavens, the author's heavens in the skies. But I've twisted that because I think it resonates greatly with both the fiction and non-fiction that's being written today. That the past, the novels and the work, the non-fiction work is just saturated with what is our relationship to the past, how does it influence where we are now and how we think about today, and how it will inform the future.
That was Louise Adler, Director, Adelaide Writers' Week. Finally, let's go to the Middle East. Carmel Rosato is Director of International Projects for the Emirates Airline Literature Festival in Dubai.
We've got probably 50% Arabic interest, Arabic world sessions. The rest is the rest of the world, English language, other languages as well. And it's the only festival of its type in the region. So we promote dialogue and understanding and a place to look at different ways of thinking about the world and different perceptions of the things that are going on in the world today, along with topics on everything from, history, romance, fiction, non-fiction, etc.
I know there's always a couple of really big names there. Jeffrey Archer's been there a couple of times when I've been there, and just some big international draws.
Yes, we've often had Booker Prize winners. I think we had 3 last year in our programme, Nobel Prize winners, as well as book club favourites and, emerging writers too.
I'm very struck by one evening you usually put on, which is Poetry in the Desert.
Yeah, that is our wonderful evening desert stanzas. So we take everyone out to the desert and enjoy poetry in the language that it's written in, performed by the poets under the stars amongst the sand dunes. It's beautiful.
So who would you say usually comes to the festival? Who's your audience?
Our audience is as wide as the people who live in Dubai. We've got over 200 nationalities. So every mix from the West to Southeast Asia and all around the world. So wherever you're from, you'll find something for you at the festival that'll be of interest to you.
Now, the Middle East obviously is quite a politically sensitive area, and I wonder if that impacts on your content at all.
We will look at things from different perspectives. We like to have open dialogue and look at topics from different viewpoints, but in a way of understanding and acceptance of different points of view.
Now, in your role as the person sort of taking care of the international side of it, I know that you spend a lot of time visiting festivals in other parts of the world. Just tell me about the sort of, I suppose I would call it the circuit.
Yeah, we've got 160 festivals, more than that probably now, in the Global Association of Literary Festivals. What's striking is that we've all got the same issues that we're dealing with, all the same problems, but we're also very different. And it's interesting to see how festivals in the West maybe have different issues that they need to deal with than we have maybe in the Middle East or in India or Indonesia or different parts of the world. So we've all got difficulties that we need to work with, but we've also got the same issues. And of course, the thing that binds us all together is the joy of literature and bringing it to our people in the communities that we're in.
So there is an actual association of festivals. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, this started in 2020 in Dubai. We got a group of festival directors together, and we thought it would be a very good thing to do something where we meet every few years or other festivals, and it's collaboration really, sharing knowledge, and we keep up to date with newsletters and website, etc., so we can share knowledge and work together and do collaborations.
And I presume a part of that is also just making sure that all your dates work.
Well, we try to, but with so many festivals around the world, that's it's impossible to do that. But some festivals, such as the ones in Australia, have worked together to make sure that they can share authors, so that authors only have one long flight and then can go between different festivals. And a lot of festivals are doing that to try and work together, and that's one of the benefits of an association.
And of course what that does for the participants, for the writers and the moderators, is that sort of, I suppose, little travelling groups form. And I mean, certainly over the last few months I found myself on the road with the same group of people. You become very close, don't you?
Yes, I mean it's because authors are doing book tours generally, and so we're all keen to get the authors who've just launched a book, so it's quite a natural thing that happens. But it's great to see the alchemy that happens when the authors get together and become friends, and those friendships carry on and collaborations come out of that too.
And Kamal, why do you think there is still such an appetite to see authors in person?
Well, there's nothing like being in the room, is there, with one of your literary heroes. It's one thing reading a book, but when you can see the person who's written it and brings it to life, it's just magic.
Kamal Razato, Director of International Projects for the Emirates Airline Literature Festival in Dubai. Many thanks to all these talented women who really make the international literature scene buzz. You've been listening to Meet the Writers, thanks to the producer Steph Chungu, who also edits the show. And you can download this programme and previous episodes from our website or wherever you get your podcasts. I hope I've given you some fantastic ideas for literary adventures in the future. I'm Georgina Godwin. Thank you for listening.